This video is partly a review of the Broad & Taylor, and it's partly a review of how I love to make bread. This proofer is pretty much all that the company claims it to be. It goes together easily and quickly. It stores nice and neatly and compactly on the shelf. Here I've set the proofer to 85, just as the recipe calls for. I'm using the exact recipe that comes with the proofer. Here I've actually used the exact recipe, like I said, for the bread that's in the book that comes with the proofer. And I don't have the book with me, but I think it's called the Country Bread Loaf, whatever the basic bread loaf is. I'm sorry, I forget. So I've done it just as the recipe has instructed, and as you can see, the dough has cleaned the side of the bowls neatly, which is exactly the sign of a great loaf in the making. So after mixing and kneading, you get this nice loaf, and I have coated it with oil, as always with bread, because any dry parts the rising will be inhibited. I then put it in the proofer and wait. After the dough has doubled in size, you then shape it into a loaf as instructed in the book and pop it into the proofer. Now my one complaint here is that the recipe only is for one loaf. I always make 4 loaves at a time. So I didn't want to get carried away with a double or more than a double recipe without knowing if I was going to like the recipe. So I just did the 1 loaf. So while the loaf is shaped and bulking up to about double in size, I set the oven to 350 and let that bread poof up in the proofer. And when it's just slightly raised over, I pop it in the oven and bake a beautiful loaf. So as I said before, I like to bake multiple loaves at a time, or at least in a period of a couple of hours, so that I don't have to get my oven up and hot and then just get 1 loaf out of it. So I have now made my old standby recipe of bread. You can see it makes a beautiful ball. And prior to getting a proofer, my old standby method of proofing was to coat the dough with oil, cover it with saran wrap in the bowl, and then put that bowl in a bigger bowl or pot with hot water, and then just keep changing the water until it's proofed to the height that I like it to be proofed to, which you see right here. So I've timed it pretty good, and my 1 loaf from the recipe from the proofer book is in the oven. This loaf is now, it's done proofing in the pot. Now it's shaped into a loaf, and it's proofing in its loaf shape in the proofer. So as you can see, I would be happy if you could fit 4 loaves in this proofer, but 2 loaves I guess will do. So I've timed things just about as well as I think I can. The first loaf is out of the oven. I've bumped the temperature up to 400, which is required for this loaf, these loaves that I'm doing here. I've got the 2 loaves raising while the oven gets up to 400, which doesn't take that long from 350. Pop these loaves in the oven, and this is my favorite and my family's favorite white bread recipe, and they come out just absolutely beautiful and wonderfully tasty and aromatic, and we end up with 2 more beautiful loaves. Here we have the beautiful and was amazingly tasty loaf from the proofer book. And here you see my 2 loaves of my old standby white bread and the loaf from the proofer book. And here you can see that it's a beautiful, just a beautiful piece of bread when you slice into it. So overall, In terms of this proofer, I love this proofer. I wish I'd had this proofer for the last whole part of my life when I've been making bread, because it just makes it so that, you know, the environment it makes for the bread to do what it needs to do is just the perfect environment, of course. And so I would definitely recommend this proofer. I've had it for maybe a month now, and I make bread every week. I make about 3 to 4, well, I make about 4 loaves every week. The proofer is easy to take out, easy to pack away. It just really does a fantastic job. Now, I will say that I have tried the yogurt in the book, and it didn't work. I tried twice, thinking maybe somehow I had made a mistake, and it wasn't me. According to a friend of mine who's actually reviewing this proofer for, she works for, they recommend that the higher temperature at first for the yogurt is too high and it kills the yeast. And so I failed twice. I am going to try it another time at the lower temperature that my friend has suggested to me that has worked for her. And I'm sure that it will be fine, but I haven't tried it yet, so I actually can't say that for sure. But I do have some video segments from the yogurt efforts that maybe I'll post a review on that next. Thanks for watching.